my fast, fresh, and fabulous cooking class because of alliteration, always as much as I like to. Today we're going to be talking about feasting on a shoestring because Christmas is over and we have spent all of our dollars. And so I don't know if your pantry is like mine, but my pantry is kind of full of stuff, and I'd rather not spend money on food that I haven't already brought home from the store. Plus, if you've been to Walmart or Aldi this week, you know it is an apocalypse. So hopefully this is going to give you some ideas about things you can make at home with food you already have. Also, just a heads up, all of the groceries that we're using today, it's going to feed probably about 20 people. I'm going to guess 20 servings of food, and we paid about $60 for all the groceries. So you're looking at about $3 a serving, which is pretty good in terms of stretching a budget. So first thing we're going to start with is an Italian grandma classic, pasta fagiole soup. I'm going to start by I always think about I need to make sure that I turn this on and get it set before people get here so I don't embarrass myself in public, and then I never do. So here we go. We're going to start with this pot here. I'm going to add just a little bit of oil to it to help it get started. And we're going to add bacon. Walmart sadly did not have the pancetta that their recipe calls for, so we're using bacon. And that's totally fine. Pancetta, bacon, even ham. If you're really in a pinch, any leftover lunch meat that you have sitting around, you can even do this with salami or bologna or anything like that. You can have a little smoky, porky kind of action happening there. You can even probably use smoked turkey if that's what you got. So don't let like an ingredient that you don't have or you're unfamiliar with stop you. It never stopped an Italian grandma. So we're just going to let that bacon get kicking off, and while the bacon's going, we're going to start with our onion. I don't like dealing with all the hairy root bits when I'm cutting it, so I'm just going to cut that a little bit off. And you'll see we still have enough of a root ball holding it together that it'll still hold itself together without getting all the crunchy, hairy, furry bits in the onion because of so I'm just going to take that off, top and tail of the onion, and then we're going to cut the onion in half, making sure we keep our thumbs out of the way. And then I'm going to take at least the first top, and you see how this layer of the onion still has color on it? That means it's going to get tough when we cook it. So we're going to take those first two layers of onion off all together. And now time for tough onion in this kitchen. Alright, so we're just going to get that all off. This is going to be so nice to make over the next week when we're all snowed in and can't get to Walmart and you're busy looking at your pantry and looking long. I've got 2 cans of beans and an onion. What could possibly be for dinner? And this is it. This is going to save your bacon. So I'm just going to slice through my onion all the way down to the root ball. And then I'm going to come back through the top and then cut, I'm going to say about a 1/4 inch. We're using white beans, cannellini beans. And I would like the onion pieces to be about the same size or a little smaller than the beans. So when we have a nice bowl of it, it's a uniform kind of bite and everything looks about the same size and it's just tidy and neat. So we can get our cuts all in at that same way. Alright, so then we're going to come to the top on this one. Hear that bacon start to sizzle. Always a good sound. And I'm telling you, this is one of those things that is so simple that people are going to walk through the kitchen and be like, what are you making? It is the olive oil, bacon, and onion magic. It just smells so good and makes your house smell like you know what you're doing, even if you have no idea. This is just some random recipe from straight here in the library. It's going to make your kitchen smell delightful. Alright, so I'm just going to scooch the onion over and give our bacon a little bit of a stir. And break it up a little bit. So, we want to get that nice and rendered with all that delicious fat and juices out of the bacon so it'll infuse our food. So I've got our whole garlic cloves. Oh, and I wanted to show you. I know people are interested in my knives and what's happening here. So for Christmas, I got a cleaver. I just got this in at the Asian market. It's not super fancy. It doesn't have a full tang. The blade doesn't go all the way to the handle. It's only a double rivet, not a triple rivet, because it doesn't have the full tang coming through. But since I've never used a cleaver before, I wasn't sure if I would like it. And I didn't want to pay for a really nice one if I was not going to use it. So I got the cheap one from, this is like $12 from the Asian market in Tulsa. But watch this, guys. This is so much fun. You ready? We're going to take our cleaver, we're going to smash and pull, and we're going to get all of the paper off of our garlic cloves, and it's going to be like perfectly already done. Look at that. So fun. I love a little cleaver moment, turns out. And then it's going to run it through and easy peasy. So anyway, I do love a cleaver. I think it's really fun, and now I know. So once this one is no longer doing it for me, I might upgrade to another one. But I brought it because I know there's some people in class that like to know about my knives and what I'm doing with them, so here we go. The cleaver moment. Get the paper off this one and smash it. And it's just something so satisfying, you guys, about smashing a garlic clove, because you need to be small anyway, and just, chew it up there, baby. And breaks it up so nice. Anyway, so we're going to do this with 5 little garlic cloves sitting in a tree. And then once we get our onion cooked off, we'll throw in our garlic as well. So we have a little minute before the garlic's going to be used. I just like to kind of get ahead of what I'm doing. Our bacon is smelling really nice. Yeah. So on the cleaver, actually it's easier to take the paper off after you kind of crush it a little bit. The paper, think of it like a vacuum seal, right? So if you try to take the paper off of it while it's like this, it's going to fall all apart and take forever, not quite come all the way off. But if you crush it a little bit with your knife, the paper is just going to fall straight off because you've broken the vacuum seal, basically. That's not a vacuum seal, but that's the closest thing I can describe it on the fly. It just kind of, it's sticky. There's so much natural sugar in the garlic that it gets all sticky on there. So if you crush it a little bit before you try to slice it, it'll make you have to do less cuts because the garlic clove is already kind of broken up a little bit. But it also gets the paper off really nice. Easy peasy. And you know my thoughts on garlic, please do not. It has vinegar and stuff on it to make it not so tasty, and you're using a lot of the compounds in the garlic that make it taste so good when it's fresh. Jarred garlic will not get this sticky because it just has already been rinsed off, and you lose so much flavor when you're using garlic from a jar. So do it for the children, but also make sure that use our nice things to do, including fresh garlic. All right, just gonna rinse all that off for a second. Let's take a little peek. Yeah, this is looking good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw the onion in. The bacon's going to keep cooking, but the onion I want to get nice and toasty too. Hold on, some garlic. Okay, so let's go throw the onion in. And then I'm going to scoop the garlic over. And then what we're going to start now, while this is going, is the vegetable base for our shakshuka. Has anyone ever made or eaten shakshuka before? No? Okay, so it is a Middle Eastern staple. You see it a lot at breakfast time, but it's one of those things where an egg is always a good meal no matter what time of day. So I make it for dinner. It's one of our dinner options at home. But I want this tomato base for the shakshuka to have a minute to kind of get beautiful. So shakshuka is just vegetables cooked in a tomato kind of sauce. And then you can use feta or not use feta. We're using feta because Walmart had it. It wasn't expensive. And then you kind of cook the egg soft in the tomato sauce and serve it on crusty bread. So it's delicious, has a lot of flavors, and it's got some really nice nutrition, especially this time of year when we're all hungry for sunshine. This is a really, really good little meal, I think. So I'm going to start the little olive oil in this pan. And we're going to turn it on. About a medium heat, medium low. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this up just a little bit. Go to medium high. Is that moving around a little faster? Okay, so we're going to take our red pepper. It's really traditional in shakshuka to have a tomato and a pepper. You see it sometimes with eggplant, depending on what's seasonal. Hot peppers. Harissa, if you've ever used harissa, is a Middle Eastern condiment made out of roasted peppers and chilies and spices. Harissa is really common in the shakshuka. We're going to be using spices that are more easy to find in Bartlesville, America, than a harissa paste. But if you happen to have some harissa paste kicking around in your pantry, this is a great place to use it. So we're just going to cut the pepper up kind of thin. And I'm going to go ahead and toss them into our oil. As it heats up. Oh, no. Hit the power button. Oh. you like things spicy, feel free to put jalapeno or a serrano or any other kind of spicy chili here, but you're right at home in this one. Slicing that, and then next we're going to put down some onion, and we're just going to let that cook. The onion and the peppers together until they're kind of soft and jammy almost. Paper off of this guy. And then this one I'm not going to dice. We diced the other onion. This one we're just going to slice up. It's very easy. And that's what I like about doing this for breakfast because it requires so very little. I'm a crack of noon kind of person. So if I have to make breakfast, I need it to be something that I can basically do blindfolded and doesn't have a lot of moving pieces. And this is great. Because if you were doing this for breakfast, you'll see there's a moment where it's just cooking itself and you can sit down with coffee and choose to be a human instead of an ogre. I always need that moment in the morning to make some choices about how my day is going to go. And this is a good one for that because it gives you a little bit of time built in there. Okay, so then we're just going to slice the onion very thin because we want it to cook and we don't want it to take forever. And we want to have just this melting tangle sort of the vegetables in that tomato sauce that we're going to be building here in a minute. Stir it in. Alright, now I'm going to see how those onions and bacon are doing over there. So it might be time to add our garlic. This is looking good. I think I'd like to go just a little bit longer. I want a little bit more color on those onions and a little more color on that bacon. So we're just going to let it go for just a minute. I'm going to turn that up just a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to add a little bit of salt to our onions and peppers. The salt is going to help draw out some of the moisture from the onions and the peppers, and that's going to help them cook down a little faster. Plus it'll start building our seasoning base in the very beginning, which is what we want. We want a nice, beautiful flavor all the way through. That's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and throw in our garlic here, and we'll resume operations on our stew while these vegetables start cooking down for our shakshuka dish. Alright, so we're going to cook the garlic until it gets a little bit of color on it. Garlic burns super fast because it does have a lot of sugar in it. So I want to make sure we keep an eye and not bump up too far. I'm going to go ahead and throw in our hot pepper flake. There it is. You need, I think it says a quarter teaspoon, but this is, go with your gut. If you like things a little spicier, you can use things a little spicy. A quarter teaspoon is barely enough to, give it a little bit of, okay, that looks great. And then, we're going to add our water. I've got 6 cups of water. This is another budget-friendly thing. We're not using chicken broth. We're not using anything that Okay, next for our shakshuka, we're gonna need some more garlic. This is not a garlic light sort of menu put together today, but that's okay, garlic is good. Do these, and we're not gonna mince these, we're gonna slice these, so I don't wanna crush them all the way, even though it's more satisfying. Easier to peel, but we're just gonna slide that peel off as best we can. Yeah, let me snatch them a little harder. One more. And then we're just going to slice these. And when the onions get a little softer, we're going to go ahead and put them in our shakshuka. Again, the garlic is going to burn, so we don't want to put it in too early. And do you have a question? You just stretch it. Okay, understood. Okay. I'll give us a little bit of this. Some of the peppers or some of the onions have taken on a little bit of color. That's gorgeous. That is going to make it so beautiful and so tasty. And I'm just going to cook it until that garlic starts to be a little more fragrant. Let's see. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn our oven back on. I had it on, but maybe when I accidentally turned off this top, the bottom turned off. Okay, because when we're ready to put in the eggs in our shakshuka, we're going to finish up in the oven. Let's see, it's a really fun little party. I love it. Okay, so back to shakshuka. Let me pull up this. Okay, so to this, we're going to add a teaspoon of paprika. And I'm just eyeballing it. If you feel like measuring, go for it. If you are comfortable eyeballing, you have my permission. We're going to do a little bit of cayenne, calls for an 1/8 teaspoon. And again, this is however you feel. If you like them spicy, add some chili flakes, add a jalapeno in there, whatever you want. And then it's calling for a teaspoon of cumin. So we're going to go ahead and throw in a teaspoon of cumin. And I'm going to give it a little bit of pepper as well, just because I like it. Alright. Got myself done. Okay, so we're going to let the spices toast up just a little bit. The oil in the pan is going to bring out a lot of the flavors from so we're gonna let this come down. So, and this one up. Okay, so we want this. Do you see how it's kind of liquid? You want to stir it? We want that some of that to evaporate down and condense and get a little bit thicker, a little bit jammy. So I just want that to go for just a minute. Oh, excuse me, I can feel myself crying for those onions again. So I'm just gonna should be the last time. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to make sure I don't have like makeup all over everything and girl not seeing. Okay. Perfect. Alright, and now while these things are cooking down, we're gonna start our salmon. This is something that I love. I made it recently for my family. And they loved it. So I'm like, well, my version, I'm going to really like this one too. So here's how it starts. We're going to turn this on. And we're going to put it on some olive oil. I've got salmon in here. That I've already cut into little pieces. You don't have to watch me do that. We're going to let that oil heat up a little bit in that pan. I'm worried about this being too high, but I'll take it down just a little bit. Okay, also a note on the soup. The starches in the pasta are going to thicken it and make it super nice. And you can watch that. If it looks like it's too thick, you can always add a little bit more water and then taste it for salt. It's already going to need quite a bit of salt at the end, just because there's so much water in there and pasta that don't have a lot of flavor. So I know we're going to be adjusting for salt anyway. So if you need to add more water, it wouldn't really mess up anything. But the pasta starches is just going to be really unctuous and thick and really. Okay, so next, let's go ahead. Not that yet for just a second. And while it's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and salt our salmon. And throw a little bit of pepper on it. And we'll stir it all up as soon as it gets good. Now this is fun. It's it's called a one bowl salmon salad, and I was like, what is happening with a hot salad? Like, are you kidding? Apparently it's a new trendy thing to have a bowl of like a protein and vegetables and some sort of a green in there somewhere and calling it a warm salad. I don't make the rules. But I feel like if we can have cold soup, why not? Just a little bit more salt. Wanted to make sure it's seasoned all the way down. And we're going to throw about half of these scallions, green onion, on top of the salmon. We're going to keep the other half here as a garnish later. And I'm just going to let that sit and let that one side get a little bit of color on it. I'm going to give this guy a little bit of a stir. Starting to cook down, it's still a little liquidy. That's not what we want. We want it to be nice and thick. I am going to turn it down just a little bit. Perfect. Okay. So next, just wipe this off. It's got a lot of crumbies on it. Alright, let's go ahead and start working on some herbs. Oh, and our lemon. I brought another gadget to show you guys. This is my citrus peeler. You see them in barware sets a lot because fancy bartenders will take, a little piece of citrus. I love this guy for big pieces of zest. So we're going to use big pieces of lemon zest to garnish the salmon dish. So you just kind of run it down, and it gets only the zest, and it's so delicious, and you don't get any of the bitter pit, but you do get a bigger piece of zest than if you were to use a microflake. So I wanted to bring them down to show you guys. He's a fun little tool to have. And any salad that you're making, that you want to add a really pretty little citrus garnish or note, just shaving some citrus zest orange is also beautiful on a salad. doing this ahead of time, so like it's gonna be so boring watching me grate zucchini, so sorry. It's gonna be boring for. So this recipe, the salmon salad, is really, really common. It's almost like we do, I don't know, chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes. In France, they do salmon and lentils. It's like a very common combination of foods. And so I've been wanting to do a salmon and lentil dish for you guys for a while. And this one, we're talking about using cans or dry goods that we have kicking around. I was like, well, this kind of lends itself. Okay, I think that's enough. Get all of that off the grater. And then I'm just going to kind of press it with a little bit of paper towel to get some extra moisture out. Doesn't have to be perfect, we don't need to drain it. We're just going to try to get a little bit of extra moisture out of it. So I'm just going to let that sit for a second. And come stir the things. Pasta is not quite there. This is looking nice though. Okay, so what we're going to do, stir it one more time. And that side over just a little bit of like a piece that looks a little bit pink still. We're going to put that pink side down. He says optimistically, well, the pan pricer got it. Okay, there we go. And then we are going to get our garlic and our lemon. Squeeze the lemon over the dish. Just like that. Get that garlic kind of stirred and get in there, start melting into those cheeses on the pan. And then we're going to turn it off. We're going to throw our spinach on top. And then we're going to cover it and let it sit for a minute to wilt the spinach. And that carryover steam is also going to finish cooking the salmon. And then we'll add the other ingredients after that spinach is cooked. So we're going to be adding lentils that came from a can that I've drained, so you don't have to cook those. We'll be adding some beautiful cherry tomatoes and some fresh herbs. So it's going to be in our zucchini. So I think that's what makes it a salad, is all the whole vegetable ingredients that you kind of put in. But honestly, the idea of eating a salad in the wintertime kind of is unappealing to me. So this warm salad thing, I can get behind, especially when the weather is the way it is now. Okay, go ahead and turn our shakshuka up a little bit. And let's check this pasta. It's looking good. Just want to pull that little piece out so you can see how we're doing. It's a little bit longer, but that flavor is really nice. I think you guys are going to like that one. And then go ahead and add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. Great for things. Kind of good call. Okay, so next, let's see, this is all going to be for our salmon. To finish our salmon, I'm going to want some parsley. So I've got some parsley here. And I'm just going to straight up take it and cut it about that far up, and then we're just going to slice it. We are going to get some stems, but that's okay. The stems of parsley, if they're not too thick, are delicious and just have a lot of flavor, and the texture is not noticeable as unpleasant. So we're just going to go ahead and chop that roughly with our knife. It's going to give us another beautiful layer of flavor, but also nutrients. So dark green. Herbs are one of the things that have the highest amount of like phytonutrients per kind of weight with anything. Anything that has the most color and most flavor is going to have the most nutrients as well. So herbs kind of get those multiple ways. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and see how much moisture we pulled out. We don't need to get it all the way dry, but just a little bit. So that's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and throw our parsley in here, because we are going to need to chop up this cilantro to finish our shakshuka. I'm going to do that now. Just have it ready. Same dance. Chop it up about there, and then iron top all the way. It's such a treat for me to get to use cilantro. I've got children who both have the cilantro gene, where cilantro tastes like soap. And it's such a bummer because I love cilantro so much. So if there's anyone here who has the cilantro gene, I'm all sorry, but I'm using it. feel like letting it cook down, you could always throw in a little bit of tomato paste to thicken it up, and then you wouldn't have to reduce it. So if you're in a hurry, which I try not to be if I'm in charge of breakfast, do that. Or this is when I was talking about just sitting and having some coffee while I was doing something. Okay, that looks beautiful. Can we go ahead and turn off the soup? I don't know why you did that. Hold on, hold on. There we go. And we're going to finish it with just a little bit of olive oil, just for richness. You can also finish it with a little additional Parmesan, which would be delightful, but I thought I had some here and I did, so that's fine. Okay, so, crusty garlic bread. Oh, I lied. We're just going to use one more garlic clove. Oh, well. So, here's my trick. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. You could just cut it across like this, but I think it's a lot fancier and more fun to do a really steep angle, because you're going to get some really pretty cuts of bread doing it that way, and then your bread slices are bigger. So like this is probably going to be about the widest we're going to get, but it's fun to be able to get a really nice white piece of bread off of something that's about half the width, right? So cutting it at a diagonal, you're going to get, I don't know, some prettier, longer little pieces than if you were just to do it straight. You can do it however you like. That's just a fun trick. And it's coming down pretty thick. Alright, and then I'm just going to lay them down in a little baking sheet here. And this one. What was that?
You're throwing away the best part.
Oh, I know. Like those are delicious little, we call them kitchen snacks in my house. That would definitely be getting a little bit of butter and a quiet moment.
You got that right.
Yeah. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to run some olive oil over our toast and stick them in the oven just to crisp it up a little bit. And then when it comes out, we're going to run a cut piece of garlic over it, and that's going to give you just a really beautiful kind of light, not overly strong garlic flavor. It is nice. So I'm going to cover the opening of the olive oil just a little bit so it doesn't come out quite so fast. This one is a really wide aperture. We just want to give them just a little bit of love and maybe a little salt. And then we're going to put those in, and while these are in, we're going to finish our salmon stuff. Okay, why are you not on? We're going to be preheating the oven with the toast in it, so that toast is on its own. I don't know what's going to happen there, but we'll look okay, so to this, see, I want that spinach to be a little softer, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat back on. And just let that kind of push it around just a little bit to make sure you can get some nice steam. I'm going to go ahead and add our lentils to the top, just like that. I'm going to add our lemon and some fresh green onion and zest. I'm going to keep some of the dill back for garnishing, but the rest of the dill is going to go on. Then I'm going to slice some tomatoes, and the tomatoes are going to go on top. Okay, so these are just going to get a quick little halvesies, nothing fancy. My husband does not like raw tomatoes, and so when I made it at home, I put the tomatoes down before I put the spinach and just kind of let them soften up a little bit. And he liked that too. So if you also have someone in your life who does not like a raw tomato, they're wrong, but we love them. So you can always kind of adjust. And this is another thing that is just kind of using up what you use up some pantry ingredients and whatever is languishing in the fridge as well. Okay. Our track sheet is looking good. It's starting to thicken up just a little bit, just a little more. I'm going to go ahead and give it just a little bit of a stir. Yeah. It's looking great. Okay, so I do want that oven. The oven's still preheating, so I'm going to let that keep going until the oven's hot because I don't want to put eggs in a sketchy oven. Eggs require delicate care. So I'm just going to finish doing some of these tomatoes and check our skin. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, it's starting to get, the skin is starting to come through a little bit. That's good. Just gonna let that keep going. I'm going to get the tomatoes on top so I have more room to slice up some more. But the juices from cooking and the juices from the salmon and all of that are going to be what dresses this. It doesn't really get any other dressing other than that. And then zucchini and the fresh herbs. Very fresh, and I love it. And this is so nice. It would be delicious in summertime, obviously, when everything is fresh and beautiful produce, but in the wintertime, man, just give me a big bowl of this. I thought it was excellent, and kids took it for lunches in school. So I think so. This is always a win when they eat it, you know, voluntarily. Just kind of a stir. But you can kind of see why they call it a one-pot salad when you do this. It's pretty salad. The meat is kind of a garnish and not so much the main event, which I like. That's how I prefer to do it. Okay. I'll salmon, I'll put a little bit of dill. Just gonna keep that going on a kind of a low heat just to help bring everything together. Anyone have any questions so far? No? No? Okay. Yes. Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Is there a trick?
Once it's soggy, it's done. Yeah. But I know. So if you, when you bring it home, if you put it in a Ziploc baggie that you put a paper towel in, that'll help keep it fresher a little bit longer. Any kind of green or herb like that, that's my secret for that, which is not my secret. I got it from my grandmother, who I'm pretty sure got it from Rachel Ray. But if you put your stuff in a Ziploc bag that's got a paper towel kind of in there, it'll kind of absorb any of the moisture that would otherwise stick on the greens and make them, you know, froze faster. Of course. Do you want to know? Alright. Looks like we are achieving oven temp, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and pop these tomatoes down on top of our salmon. Let's see what this toast is doing. That's good, man. Oh no. I lied. It says it's at 140. You've got a minute on this oven. I'm sorry. I really tried to preheat it. I don't know what happened. Let me move this down so we're ready. So it's time to do the check sheet then. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the check sheet down just a little bit. And we're starting to get exactly where we want. That sauce is reduced down, which is great because that's also going to give us a lot of really beautiful deep tomato flavor. The way it's thickened up, it's just tomato cooking down on top of itself, so it's going to be just a really beautiful, rich flavor there. We can go ahead and add our feta cheese to this. I'm going to keep some back for garnish on top. A note about feta cheese, I always buy my feta in the block instead of already crumbled. It's a lot cheaper per ounce to do it that way, and it's a lot fresher. Once it's crumbled, that's so many more surface areas to start sailing and getting weird flavors, and then to put coatings and stuff on it to make it not stick to itself. So I always buy my feta in a block instead of already crumbled. So it's cheaper and better. Alright, just gonna let that go. That is gonna hold its shape pretty well against heat. So we're not gonna worry about it melting too much. A little bit of melt is always good. And the rest of it is gonna hold back and go when it comes out of the oven. Okay. And you can use whatever tomatoes look good to you. These cherry tomatoes had the best aroma and color of the ones that were available. So winter tomatoes are always dicey, but yes. Give it 10. Alright, I'm going to give this one more little stir. Oh yeah, see how that's going to start to wilt a little bit? That's gorgeous. That's what we want. Perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and just let it sit. And that's our beautiful salmon salad. Let me give it one more big turn to make sure you've got all the beautiful flavors up to the bottom and to the top. Oh, then save that some things for garnishing. Got that. We have some of our beautiful dill. I love dill and lemon and salmon. It's just a beautiful combination. And I think it's so good with the lentils too. Lentils have this beautiful earthiness to them and kind of a gentle wooziness, I think. So all these bright herbs and tomatoes and the great sweet salmon flavors are beautiful all together. So I'm just going to roll that good. Do that all set here. And that's our salmon salad. Our soup is also, yeah. So can you see how the pasta has sort of thickened up the broth and now we've got this beautiful comforting little soup on it? That's perfect. Just a little bit more pepper. As always. And that one's done as well. I'm going to go ahead and finish up our section. So what we're going to do is we have eggs. And we are going to make little spots in the sauce for our eggs to go. If your sauce is thick, you might need to make little indentations. This one's still loose enough that we don't need to. But if your sauce was thicker, you might. And then we're just going to carefully break our eggs straight on top of our sauce. Just like that. Try not to break the yolks because that would be sad. But if they're good, so it'll be great. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, me too. I think that one's really nice. I'm going to finish this off with just a little bit of olive oil, just why not? And then just a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this one over to get it out of my way. And then we'll eat in just a second. Has everyone already been to Walmart to get all of their supplies together? Yeah, I know. It's a little bit much. I was at Walmart yesterday, and I think everyone else was too, and I was like, oh my gosh. It's busy. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and use this pasta fagiole for salt. Pasta fagiole is just pasta and beans in Italian. In some parts of America, Italian American will even say pasta fagiole, and spell it Fagool. So it's a, a interpretation. That is really nice. I'm going to have with a little bit more salt. And something that I like to do with a lot of bean dishes, it's not in the recipe, but I think it's going to be better, is just put a little bit of vinegar. So if I can find, well, I might want vinegar. cheese or something like that if you wanted to add more protein as well. Be a good idea. Alright. I'm just impatient, I'm sorry. If I had a little, like brulee, gun torch, I'd go over bruleeing the tops of them to get them finished. I have no patience. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being in for the long haul. I'm really sorry. I tried to repeat that up in 2 different times today, so I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, we have lots of garlic going on today, so. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Alright, so while we're waiting on those eggs, which watch, I'm gonna overcook them now, to get out loud. I will not overcook eggs, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna grab these toasties out and see if we can start throwing some garlic on them. They're still pretty soft, but. Okay, so you've got garlic, it's gonna be kind of cut on one end. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half. That juicy inner part of the garlic is what's gonna kind of rub on the toast. So we're just gonna take our toast and just rub it with the garlic, that's it. And you're gonna get a lot more delicate flavor than if you were to make a garlic butter or something like that. You're just getting just a little bit of the garlic that will naturally stick to the crusty bread. Please stop eating it. This oven. We have a love-hate relationship, mostly hate. Okay, here we go. We're friends. Alright. I know this is also not thrilling, but watching you rub garlic on bread, but it's going to taste good, I promise. So probably by the time we're done with this, and this is just bread that I got at Walmart, the double French baguette. It's in a little bag with 2 of them. This is not fancy bread, it is accessible bread, which I think is also important. I know this doesn't seem like much, but look how worn down my garlic is getting. Like, every little piece of bread is getting a little bit of that garlic oil on there, and it's going to be really nice. Oops, see, almost. I have to show you some back. Almost. Alright, last one. So I'm going to go ahead and pile these up, and then by the time I get back, I'm taking these over. I've got our eggs in there. And then we shall feast. Okay, let's check this out. Oh, these are good. These look good too. Oh, they're so sweet. Okay, so you can see how the eggs are totally set, but they're still nice and wobbly where the yolks are. That is what we're looking for. So then, to make it fancy and beautiful and also more delicious, we're throwing on more feta because who doesn't love feta? That salty, briny, beautiful creaminess with that some rich tomato sauce. It's gonna be bothering you guys. So I'm gonna put that on there. I'm gonna scatter all around. And cilantro is super traditional. You can use any herb. Dill is also really traditional here, but since I was using dill already, I didn't want to do it twice. Mint, parsley are all very common kinds. So there we go. There's our shakshuka. And that's all we were waiting for. So now it's time to eat. So I want you guys to let me know what you